So the next step would be to create the top lid in Autodesk Fusion, since it's good working with meshes. And how we are going to achieve that is by taking the previous file that was exported from Blender. Now that is the terrain model. So we'll import the mesh, which is the object file, and place it according to our liking. I'll shift it by 90 degrees. And then what we can do is first have a look at the model. So this is a nicely detailed mesh, and if you can see, there are lots of chord meshes. And before we do any further functions, we need to convert this to a T-spline body. So we go into the create form menu and use the utilities convert option to convert the quad mesh into a T-spline, and this might take some time depending upon the processing power of your computer. Once you're done, you click finish form, and then it'll take some time, and then what you'll have is a T-spline body. Now this is a highly detailed body, and if we look at the dimensions of this body right now, so we'll see that the default dimension that Fusion takes in is pretty small. So this is around 8 mm in circumference, which is quite small. So we'll have to scale this up. So I'll scale it up by, let's say, 140, as our edge to edge distance is 200 for the planter. Now once the scaling is done, we will import the lake, sorry, not the lake, but the lid profile. If you remember, in the previous steps we exported a DXF file which had the top section profile of the planter. So that is what we are going to use to create the lid in this part. So once we insert the DXF file, we can place it appropriately on the terrain, depending on what you want to include in your lid. So I will place it just right about here, a bit of mountains, a bit of plain for the planter, and this looks just about right. So now the next step would be to get rid of all the excess terrain data. And how you're going to do that is first move the terrain model a little up the profile that we imported, so that we can easily extrude up the necessary solid bodies. Now using the extrude command, what we'll first do is create the base, the underlying portion beneath the terrain map, so that our lid is a solid body. And how once we are done with that, we'll again use the same profile, but instead of creating a new body right now, we will use the intersection. So this is how it's done. We'll again use the extrude menu, use the same profile, and then change the operation from new body to intersect. Also change the direction of the extrude. So once you change the operation to intersect, Fusion will keep in only the data that is required, the intersection between the two solid bodies, and that is actually what we want. So once you're done, this is your lid. This is